Hello everyone, welcome to another video from Fantasy Football Scout. Something a bit different today. We're going to introduce you to one of our new partners for the season and a brand new game for fantasy football addicts like myself, and I imagine most of the people watching this video. I'm joined by Joe, who is the founder of Fanslide. How are you, Joe?
I'm good, thanks, Az. Yeah, excellent.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty excited by this. It's a completely different game to any other fantasy game that I've played. You're here to kind of tell us a bit about it. We've got some kind of live screen grabs and videos from the app itself. Why don't you start by telling us what Fanside is and kind of why you think there's a kind of a need for it in the fantasy space?
Yeah, well, in a nutshell, Fanslide is in-play fantasy football. So it's a game that you play when you're watching a match live on TV in general, but people can also play it when they're not watching the match. But it's played on one-off matches. So rather than being a season-long or a game week-based game, it's based on a single match. So the whole idea for it really came from it was my idea. I mean, we've built the app's been built, the game's been designed with me and a group of friends who are more techie than me. But the idea really came from me sitting watching a match. It's kind of Monday night football, watching a game that you don't necessarily have a real interest in, but you're watching because you just love football. And I've always been someone who's enjoyed a bet on football, and having a bet on first score or whatever, and then really feeling that doesn't really make it that interesting, and thinking, we've got this whole universe of fantasy sports, fantasy football, and then you've got the match comes along, you can't do anything. So I really sort of started researching, like, why is there no kind of in play fantasy game? Why isn't there a game that I can play whilst I'm actually watching the game, change my mind based on what's happening? And this was a few years ago. We went and sort of tried to figure out why that was. Actually, at the time, it was very hard to get data that arrives that fast to power a proper in-play game that was sort of live and interactive. We went and chatted to the guys at Opta, and we started developing the game, knowing that sooner or later there'd be a kind of data stream that was quick enough to power a game like that.
Because I've played a lot of different games over the years and not played anything quite like Fanslide, because you have the games where they're a little bit more in depth. So you've got FPL, which is the deadline hits and that's it. You're locked in for the weekend. You can't do anything. You have other games like the Champions League game and like the World Cup and European games where you can actually make changes throughout the kind of the match week or over the few days. You can change your captain, you can make subs and that kind of stuff. And some people love that idea and it kind of gives them a bit more power. Other people like that kind of passive role. Fanside just goes completely the other way, because it's, as you said, it's all set on that one match, and you pick players for like a 20-minute window. You slide them in, they score points within that 20-minute window, then you can't use them again, and then you slide kind of new players in off the back of that. And as I said, we're going to show some videos kind of how that works. But I think the first time I played it, I was kind of I was worried that it would be too much and there'd be too much kind of required of me while I'm watching the game. But as I've got used to it, it's just not at all like that, because you've got that interactivity, but you just leave it. You just leave it for 20 minutes and come back to it after that time. Or you can choose to take players out, and you can make it kind of interactive and kind of engaging as you want it to be, which I think is a really nice touch.
Yeah, that you're spot on. And that was really, going right back to the start when we we're designing the game, the challenge was always, the whole idea of Fanside is to make the experience of watching a match, particularly on TV, like more exciting, more fun, more engaging. What you don't want it to do is distract you from the game, and crucially as well, it's sociable. So if you are like me, generally sitting at home, probably on your own watching the football, actually it's a brilliant way to interact with your mates or other people on the app, other players of Fanslide who are in the chat discussing whatever points they've just won or lost, or what's happening in the game. It's really sociable, and that kind of, particularly we were testing all through lockdown, and it was brilliant to see the sort of effect it had, bringing giving people that kind of connection that everyone was missing when they couldn't go to games and go to the pub to watch the game or whatever.
Yeah, because you've got the kind of betting side that you mentioned. So obviously there's paid games you can enter in, and there's prize pools and that kind of thing. But there's also the kind of the completely free to play.
It's really important for us that it's always Fanside always going to be a free to play game. It's meant to be. It's designed to be a game that is fun in and of itself. But we also know that a lot of people who have been playing it over the last season, so we've been sort of testing in kind of stealth mode for the last year or so. People people are competing against their friends, and they want to, we've always offered prize money on selected matches, but we also know that there's people who want to pay an entry fee, in a kind of daily fantasy style contest, pay an entry fee and have a chance to win more money. So we've just launched the pay to play version of the app. So if you're in Great Britain, you can play on that app. You need to be at 18. But it's a choice. You do not have to bet, and if people do choose to bet on Fanside, we have all our responsible gambling, safer gambling information in the app, and it's really important to us that you do that responsibly. But really, the idea for me came out of, if you place a bet on a football match, you engage for the duration of that bet, and if it loses, you need to place another one.
Yeah.
If you do choose to have a bet on Fanslide, or to play Fanslide for money, you can choose your stake. Let's say you enter the £2 entry fee tournament. It's unlimited. Everyone's money goes in the pot. You're going to be entertained for 90 minutes for that. So you get a whole match's worth of decisions and entertainment to make, rather than you place a bet and maybe 5 minutes later you hadn't, and you've lost. So
things can change so quickly because of the way the scoring works, because there's points for everything. It's more in detail than FPL, for example. You've got a full comprehensive rules of passes, tackles, free kicks, yellow cards, everything all counts towards those player points totals. And because the players you slide in have a 3 times, a 2 times, and a 1 times multiplier, if your player scores and goes out, gets a brace in that 20 minutes, you can shoot from bottom of the leaderboard right up to the top in seconds. So that's what I like about it, is it does keep you invested, because some games you could be so low down you've got no chance of ever winning or competing, but it can all turn around really quickly.
Yeah, you've always got a chance. And this, in terms of how we designed the game, we spent a long time getting the point scoring right. 20 points for a goal, down to 1 point for an interception. We were worried that it would be a bit too much going on, but actually it's so intuitive when you play. We've got the kind of point scoring really, really good. And the single, double, treble points, that was really to make those decisions, give you that. We all know how important it is who your captain is in FPL, to create that sort of extra sort of juice when you make those decisions, so that you really think about them, and then of course you care about them. So playing the game is that much more exciting.
Let's talk then about how kind of Fanslide works. So we've kind of mentioned that it's a live in play fantasy style game, which again is different to, I think, what a lot of people are kind of used to. You mentioned you play one-off matches live as they happen as well. You slide your players in and out of the game to score points. As I mentioned, once you've slid those players in, you can't slide them out, but you keep them in for 20 minutes, but then you can slide them out before that 20 minutes is over, right?
Yeah, correct. Yeah, so you can, these are open-ended decisions. You can slide players out if you want to. The game's not working out how you think it might. You might have slid in defenders from one team, and you think, actually, I think they're going to concede. They're under the cosh. I want to slide them out. Or you might just tactically want to split that time up for a player. I think on the next screen we might have it might be more about the sliding out and free slides.
Yep. So it works. So if you've got 20 minutes for Robertson, say, you can slide him out after 10 minutes, and then bring him in for another 10 minutes.
Yeah, you'll hold on to his remaining time. If you get 3 free slides per half, where you can slide a player out before their time is up.
Yep.
Without penalty. After 3 and a half, each one would cost you 2 points.
Great. We mentioned about the 30 kind of in-game events. This is all Opta data, I believe.
All Opta data, and it arrives instantly.
So. It is, when you say instantly, it arrives instantly. It's quicker than any other app that I've seen. That when I had flash scores on, I was watching Sky Go, so it's a little bit delayed, and I got the notification from Fanslide first when a goal went in. So it is very quick.
I would definitely recommend having push notifications on, because you can get notified when your players time up, or if one of your players gets a booking or is subbed off. But if you are watching on a bit of a delay, you can adjust the notification settings for different events. So you could turn off the goal notification settings if you didn't want to kind of spoiler. But equally, if you were if you're out and about, you will get that goal faster than anyone else.
We mentioned choose 3 players from either team at any time. I mean, this is an interesting one, because particularly earlier on in matches, you could be tempted to go for, say, Man City are playing Burnley, for example. Unlikely given that Burnley aren't in the league now. But in that example, you could bring in your Burnley players for those first 20 minutes, kind of get them out the way, hope that Burnley can keep City. So, I mean, Bournemouth would have been a perfect example when they were playing City the other day. If that match was on, getting your 3 Bournemouth players, hope they can just withstand a little bit of time. And then once that 20 minutes is over, you probably then don't need to use any more Bournemouth players, but you've got in their points.
That's right. And I think in terms of sort of planning a strategy ahead of a game of Fanslide, it's really the only question you really need to answer is who am I going to start with, and looking at if you think there's going to be a goal in the first 20 minutes is really important. So it's a really popular strategy amongst players to start with a weaker team's defence. Even if they're under the cosh, keepers get 3 points for a save. If you make a couple of saves in succession. Claim a cross or have a successful punch from a corner or something, you rack up points quite quickly. And defenders get clean sheet points as well if they don't concede, if you have them for the full 20 minutes and they don't concede. So it's a really viable strategy to do that.
Yep, absolutely. As I mentioned, players earn single, double or treble points. I mean, those treble points are kind of really key for this. If you can catch a goal, for example, on the treble, you're talking 60 points on that. So it's a really nice touch, and it just adds that extra bit of strategy to the game.
And it just means if you've got Kane ×3, it means you can't use him later, and it means Son isn't in ×3. So you've got all these decisions to make, and that's what makes the game so much fun, to be honest.
Yep, absolutely. You can only use each player for a maximum of 20 minutes, and like we've kind of touched on, you can take those players out, and then you've got the penalty that comes in.
And it's really about reading the game. We've all been there. You've all got everyone has an opinion of what is happening actually live. We can kind of do all our homework all through the week, but there's no substitute for actually reading what's happening on the pitch. And Monday's example, it was quite extraordinary start to the match. It was all guns blazing. You're like, actually a great example where you might just say, my Liverpool clean sheet strategy, I'm just going to I'm going to throw that out the window for the next 20 minutes, and maybe I can use those guys later on. But it's all about being able to react. Yep,
absolutely. You can sign switching players kind of whenever you want, kind of as we've covered. The best way is to learn. I mean, when we first kind of got involved with you guys, I've got to be honest, I didn't really know what to expect, and I gave the app a try. I tried it kind of the early days and genuinely really enjoyed it, and I've been playing quite a few of the matches. So there's links in the description as well. As I said, it's completely free to play if you want to kind of just get involved and experience it. So if you do like the sound of kind of all this video and kind of what Joe's talking about, then definitely just give it a go and give it a try yourself. Let's take a look at some of the kind of videos then that we've kind of got and kind of the screen records. So this is kind of what the app looks like kind of in play. And this is the community shield, and this is you kind of selecting your kind of initial players to go in. So Kyle Walker comes straight in as a ×3. Ake comes in as a ×2. And I think you go for Rodri kind of in the first one. Yeah. So you're back in the early Man City clean sheet here.
Yeah. So this is pre-kickoff. You make your first slides before the game kicks off. If you want to enter any of the prize tables or anything, you need to make those slides before kickoff. Here I was obviously gone for heavy clean sheet, Man City clean sheet option for the start of the match. Rodri, as I say, he's one of those, doesn't pick up a huge amount of points for kind of, he's not a guy you'd have in your FPL team, but he's a good kind of ×1 option. Walker, with the hope you might pick up a few attacking points as well. I think actually Rodri gets the first event of the match.
He does, yeah.
So these events in that video printer are coming in completely live from Opta. If your point's in green, that means you've got those points for Rodri. So that was my view at the start. Obviously, that game didn't quite pan out. Certainly, Liverpool started pretty strongly. Man City looked like they just finished playing a game about half an hour before. It was an interesting start to the match. So just another example of just being able to kind of take a slightly different view on things.
Yeah, it's an interesting way of kind of watching the match as well without actually watching it. If you're not watching the game live, for example, you can kind of see what's happening here. You can see straight away Rodri making defensive headers. Thiago's had a shot blocked. You get the sense straight away that Liverpool are on the front foot in this game because these blocks are gonna happen. And just to reiterate, I mean, the speed in which these come in is really kind of Interesting. Let's move to the second one then. So this is a bit later on. So this is around the 20-minute mark. So this is when your kind of players are ending. This is kind of 10 seconds to go. What you're desperate for here is no goals, no goals for Liverpool.
Yeah. So I was sort of, I mean, I was sort of tempted to slide the defenders out a little bit before, because Liverpool were, were looking pretty dangerous. Managed to sort of, sweat that one out, and you stay there for the 20 minutes. You can see the clean sheet points being awarded there. Walker actually won a tackle, I think, on bang on 20 minutes.
He did,
which is great. And then decided to go. Obviously, you can mix and match players from either team. You don't have to be. I've had all Man City, then all Liverpool, but you can mix them up. So gone for hoping for a Liverpool attacking return, really, with Salah. Gone for the sort of classic, Trent to assist Salah option.
And ironically, the opposite of that happens.
As it happened.
And it happens right now, in fact. Straight after you slide him on, Trent scores, gets his 40 points. And 40 points for the goal. So this is proof that I didn't do this afterwards, because I'd have had Trent times 3 if I had. Right? Exactly.
So that's a great, that's a classic. Obviously I've been very lucky there in terms of the timing of that. If Liverpool had scored if Trent had scored a minute earlier, I'd have lost my Man City clean sheet.
I know.
Wouldn't have got points for the goal.
Yep, absolutely. And then the final video just shows the kind of the stats element to this. So there's a whole host of kind of in-game stats that you can look at. So you can see here, you have the kind of the last 10 minutes points as well. So you can see which players are getting, because there's so many different categories of points to score. It can be quite overwhelming to keep tap of it, especially as kind of the match goes on. So here you can kind of see who's kind of earning the most points across that. You can see who's been earning the most points throughout the game as well. So this stats center really gives you a really good overview of what's happening in the match. Yeah.
So this in this screenshot, obviously, I've the second my second bunch of slides have slid out. So pop into the stats center, just have a look, see which players. You can see at the top which players are most selected. You can see the total points for the match, and then points in the last 10 minutes. If you double tap on a player's shirt icon in the game screen, or on any player's name, you'll see their individual points. You'll see their points, what events they've scored for in the match. You can also see historic stats, their average points per match, that kind of thing. So really good for your kind of, just sort of researching, looking at who's having an impact, especially if you've missed 10 minutes of the game or whatever. I think it's important. You don't have to be glued to the screen to play this and to enjoy it. You can sort of dip in and out as you wish as well. So in this case, have a little look. You can see that City have been in the ascendancy for the last 10 minutes. Adrian is the highest scoring player on the pitch, and the others, I think, Haaland and Mahrez have scored quite highly as well. So in this example, I then go and slide those guys in, put Adrian in ×1, and hope he's going to pick up a few save points. But I'm basically hoping for a City goal here, but with a little bit of a hedge on the potential for Adrian to pick up some keeper points as well.
Classic Mahrez doing well on the stats for basically every fantasy game that we kind of select him in. Yeah, it's interesting, and there was an ownership percentage there as well, obviously, so you can see how many other people have selected kind of these players, and I'm guessing that updates so you can see what players have been used throughout the game.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so that's you can never sort of see another opponent's exact slide, but you can see generally what everyone's having. What we don't have on the video is actually so if you swipe to the other side of the game screen, you'll see the standings. So you'll see a list of all the tables you're in. So if you sign up using your link, you'll be in the Fantasy Football Scout group. Every time you're in a match, that group has a table that's live. If you're in a prize table, or if you've chosen to enter a money table, you see all that there. You can create groups in the same way you create a mini league in FPL. Invite your mates to that, and then you can chat within each group, as well as seeing the standings there as well. See who's doing well, who's not. Hopefully.
Awesome. Oh, I've been doing so well. I've really got my head around this. Got really into it.
Yeah. Well, we often talk about the sort of Fanslide snakes and ladders. It's you can easily. Don't celebrate for too long, when you're in the lead after 20 minutes, because it can all change.
It can.
And don't give up. If you're not doing that well, it's never over. It doesn't take a lot to change.
Yeah. What's really nice on the app as well is this kind of academy that you've built. So a lot of the screens we've been talking about and the rules and how to play are all kind of in that academy on the app. So do check that out. But you mentioned the kind of community, and there's already this. I mean, the game hasn't even been out for that long, as you've mentioned. It's been in the kind of beta stages, and it's kind of come out for the first proper time at the weekend. But there's already this kind of like energized group of people talking about it, talking about tips. We've got some on the screen. Matt Holes
Yeah,
14. Be patient.
yeah, we've had a yeah, we've so we have been the app has been live in its in kind of open sort of beta for a while. So we've got built this community of people that just played it and loved it, and we've got lots of regular players, and we've got good reviews on the app stores and so on. And I say, yeah, just glean some tips from the community to kind of help other players. If you're a new player and you're playing a game, you've got any questions, just ask in the chat. Someone, one of the other players will pick up and answer you, and everyone's very friendly in there. So yeah,
So it's some great tips on here.
There's some really good tips in here, and this the point earlier about just play a game has been the best way to learn is so true, because it's a one-off game. If you play your first game of Fanslide and have a total shocker, well, so what? The next game is a clean slate. So you kind of learn it as you go, and as you say, you quickly sort of pick up the nuances and some of the tactics. Suddenly you realize you don't just slide in the best three attacking players and go and sit down and forget about it. It's a bit more. There's a bit more.
As I did in the first time I played Fanslide. Yeah.
That's why we're making this video, right? So
that is absolutely. So
no one else will make the same mistake.
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely. Joe, that's awesome. Really good rundown of what Fanslide is. I hope people who've watched this are interested in it and want to give it a try. There's links in the kind of description below as well. I play whenever I can, most weeks as well. So I'm getting into it. And like I said, if you want to spend money, you can. Obviously, 18 plus. Gambleaware.co.uk for all the facts about gambling. If you do want to play for free, absolutely you can do that as well to give it a try. But yeah, it'd be great if you any comments people have got about the game, drop them in this video. Send them over to Joe at Fanslide as well. And yeah, I'm really excited to see where this kind of game goes in the future.
Brilliant. Cheers, Az.
No worries. Thanks, Joe.
Thanks, mate. Bye.